Julie, can you confirm that you can see my screen?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay, thank you so much for joining the DC Warehouse overview. Today is 11/14/23. Just a little bit about our company. We've been involved with manufacturing, wholesale distribution, suppliers, and fulfillment industries for over 30 years now. And today we are going to cover our product, DC Warehouse Automation. My name is Kirsten Austin. I am the president and one of the founders of DCSC. I've been here for 31 years. Joining me in the presentation is Julie Call. She's our Director of Professional Services and Development. She started in support and moved up to Software Project Manager and just has recently been promoted. She's been here for 28 years. Thank you for doing this presentation with me, Julie. So DC Warehouse is a real-time wireless solution for Sage 500 manufacturers and distributors. I thank you all for joining us today. We'll be recording this session. At the end, we will close off the recording and open it up for Q&A in case you have any sensitive questions that you want an answer to. A little bit about our product. At one point in time, we were a Sage 500 VAR, which is a value-added reseller. So we sold some of the largest, most complicated Sage 500 manufacturing and distribution deals that are out there. We still work with these customers. And at one point in time, we tried to make the Sage 500 work with a WMS system of a different database that was considered standalone. That project backfired, and so we decided to develop our own solution using the same tool set as Sage 500. And now we serve over 67 North American distributors and manufacturers with multiple warehouses and some plants that are worldwide. We work, what we like to call it, as a front-end WMS module, with Sage 500 being the ERP system on the background. We leverage the inventory control, so where you set up the item master, if you're a manufacturer, the bill of material and routing, where you set up your customer information, your vendor information, we're looking at all that data. So we are truly integrated. We also are looking at any type of transactions, such as work orders that you've created, transfer orders, purchase orders, etc., especially if you're using MRP or DRP. So again, once a purchase order is in the Sage 500 system, we can look at that and receive against that. We automate many of the processes and add a lot of new functionality that might have been missing in the Sage 500 product. We simplify the transactions because instead of having to walk over to a keyboard, enter the information, press the taskbar, save it, and hopefully wait till it posts, we are doing everything in real time with the wireless devices. When you see our wireless devices, you'll see that they are purposely designed to be simple to use without a whole bunch of graphics, and this is really on purpose. It is designed that way for speed and performance. We have many pick, pack, ship options and processes, including automation behind the scenes. We also add tons and tons of important distribution and manufacturing features. We are scalable, so when you look at this demonstration today, do not get overwhelmed. We have many customers that might start with one or two pieces of our product, maybe in receiving, maybe some picking and packing, and then later on they launch more complicated things such as manufacturing, or they launch our real-time shipping, etc. So everything is configurable. We have a hands-down, very, very good structured implementation process, and our team has years and years of distribution and manufacturing experience. When you see the demonstration today, you'll see that nothing is a batch interface. Every single thing that you do with the guns and ANSYS scanning devices is validated according to the Sage 500 validation rules and updating your ERP database in real time. The beauty of this is operations, sales, customer service, production, your financial team members, everyone is on the same page because you're having access to real-time information. We also have our own built-in barcode label engine. Our goal is just to make it very, very simple to use our product and not have to use tons of other different software applications to get your job done. So anyone that has been trained in our barcode label engine design can actually create any label, pull in any field from Sage 500, and you can create barcode labels and documents. We support over 36 different types of barcode symbologies. We allow you to control the size, the font, and even the rotation. You have complete UCC, UPC compliant labeling, and you can even determine if you want DC Warehouse to prompt your employees to print out a barcode label at specific times. So for instance, if you are receiving product and it is not barcoded, you can quickly print out a barcoded label and stick it on the box. Same thing in manufacturing. If you're creating a finished good and you'd like to label that, you can do that right on the fly, and you can do that straight from the scanning device without having to walk over to a keyboard and a PC. We also meet the labeling demands of the big box guys, so the Amazons of the world, the Targets, the Walmart, etc. And as mentioned before, any field, even the user fields in Sage 500, can be incorporated into a barcode label or document. We also support various picking methods. So we are not leveraging the Sage 500 pick, pack, ship process. We are not changing their source code at all. We just have our own processes that give you access to more different types of picking methodologies. We have customers that sometimes use multiple picking methodologies depending on their operations. So we support directed picking, wave picking, zone picking, ready to ship, and ready to ship is something that we've supported in the last 3 years, and it has become very popular. What that means is the product is already in the box that you're going to ship it out. So a lot of people that are now doing fulfillment for Amazon and for doing fulfillment for other companies and shipping direct to consumer, now they're using the ready to ship. It just makes that process so much easier. We also support pick to box, pick to cart, pick to tote, or pick to material handling equipment. We can take this all the way to integration. We have integrations with packaging machines, three-dimensional capacity scanners, etc. So all of these things can be done straight from the mobile devices. So we can take you to a real-time pick environment, and we just make it so much easier for you to interact with the scanning devices, being able to do things such as print labels, look at pick lists, package shipments, print shipping forms, etc. And as mentioned, these can all be configured for the user, the group, etc. This is an example of one of our customers that could ship out over 20,000 shipments per day using DC Warehouse in our integrated shipping manager. Speaking of shipping, we do offer our own shipping solution straight within our product. We help companies who have their own trucks. We have companies that use outside carriers. We help companies that ship small little parcels to very, very large palletized shipments, all the way up into truckload or less than truckload shipments. We support both domestic and international shipping, and we help folks that ship to the big box retailers. We can ship your sales orders, we can ship your transfer orders, and we can also do things such as handle fulfillment. What that means is blind shipping. It means you are shipping a product to the consumer on behalf of someone else. We have customers that have very, very complicated shipping requirements, and we have customers that have very simple requirements. We can do all of this straight out of the box without leaving our application. So within DC Warehouse, you can define your own box and pallet types and dimensions, and these can be used for pick-to or packaging or both. We also allow you to shop rates directly through FedEx, UPS, USPS through Indicia that just now got bought out by Stamps.com, Purolator and DHL. We can evaluate shipping costs. We can look at what is the cheapest way to send this product out. We can see who is the fastest. We also print out all the correct shipping labels, the packing list, your bill of lading. We support the VIC standard and a pallet description one. We can print out your ASN, which is your advanced shipping notification, and even take it to an invoice. We can track multiple box shipments. So let's say your customer needs as much product as you have and you have to ship it out in 3 different boxes. We can tell you this is box 1 of 3 with the items in it, this is 2 of 3 with the items in it, this is 3 of 3 with the items in it, etc. And we're also smart enough to help you consolidate. So if you have not shipped product out, we see that it's still waiting there, and you want to go ahead and consolidate this and save money on one consolidated shipment, we keep track of all of that information. All of this is real time, so it's almost as if you're going to a UPS or FedEx.com to track a package. You have access to all of that. So we keep track of your sales orders. We are also making sure that you are shipping the correct items to the right customers. We can do the same thing if you ship transfer orders between facilities. And we eliminate all of the errors because you're not doing this manually with 3 or 4 disparate systems and paper processes, etc. We also have a EDI solution. We integrate seamlessly to 4 different EDI carriers. We have our own optional credit card and settle at the time of shipment. And we have over 60 form shipping labels ASN to help you do business straight out of the gates. On the management side, your purchase orders are going to be created how you normally create your Sage 500 purchase orders, but we offer some additional options here. We do have our own optional container tracking and receiving, so that was a little gap in Sage 500 where we allow you to align multiple purchase orders to a container, and we can switch our receipt into container receipt mode. So that's just an option out there. We also do purchase order item receiving just straight out of the gate. We can take it all the way to a post. Again, these are options that are configured, and they're security options as well. We can do transfer order receiving. We also have directed put away, so we are smart enough to say, you just received these items. Where is the closest empty bin that we could put them in, or bin with enough space for those specific items? If this is a tolerance check item, we can actually help you do the tolerance. We can notify you immediately and flag something if you have been short shipped, there's not enough count, they didn't ship you the right amount, or anything else. If it's late, you can actually start making decisions right on the fly and everyone can know. Again, every single thing is security controlled. We can keep you all nice and simple with the guns and scanning devices, but once you receive that inventory, everyone's going to see that those are visible straight there. On the inventory side, we can do all of these via the handheld devices or the scanner. We can do customer returns. So the RMAs are still going to be created in Sage 500, but once an RMA is created, we can actually do a return straight from the scanning device. We can do stock movements, inventory adjustments up or down, bin transfers. We can view the item stock status at any given time, and you can do that by scanning a barcode or typing in the item or selecting an item for a drop-down list. We make inventory counting much, much easier because you're doing it on the fly. We can handle an initial count, and we're a firm believer in cycle counting, and we make that process so much easier for your team. We can assemble or disassemble kits. We can print item labels, box, pallet labels, or bin labels. We support unlimited warehouses, and we can have very, very unique configuration to employees or specific groups. When we help you set up the DC Warehouse system, we highly recommend that each employee log in with a very, very specific name that will be meaningful on a report, but we can actually record every single thing that is done within the DC Warehouse system. This is good for audit purposes. This is good for transaction purposes and performance purposes as well. And we also can do smart configuration where we can make the scanners behave in a specific manner depending on that employee's daily job each day. So they're only going to see what they need to see when they're looking at the guns. We can even point them to a specific printer. They always print labels in a certain place. So we can get very, very unique and finite what each person can do. On the manufacturing side, I love manufacturing. So we make manufacturing much easier. So we can manage raw materials, components, both lot and serial type of items. We can support material issues to work order. We were able to backflush even before Sage could do that, lot, serial, and bin items. We can do labor automation. We can create apart from simple scanning. We have a very cool, intelligent move to work center, and we do that by allotting specific bins set up at, or special bins set up at a work center. So we're smart enough to look at your demand and say, oh, you might want to have your stock handlers move material from here over to your work center. So when everyone comes for their shift, we're ready to roll. There is real-time visibility through all the manufacturing transactions. We support co-products. We can do work order maintenance. We have smart tracking and inquiries. And again, we can print those item labels for finished goods or parts on the fly. We have a lot of other features. I'm not going to go through every single one, or else this would be an 8-hour demonstration. But a couple of things I want to point out. We do allow you to do blind receiving. What that does is it turns off the expected count and forces the receiver to actually, they'll know what's coming in, but they will have to count the number of boxes or cases or units. It's just a really nice way to keep everything clean right at the point of receiving. We have tons and tons of customer and ship to specific rules. So we can use a customer's account, and we have a lot of customers that their customers say, hey, use our UPS account, we have better rates, or use our FedEx account. There's a spot in there that we can follow that specific rule. We can offer free freight for certain target orders. We have full license plate support. We talked about the integration of 4 different EDI solutions. We have bin replenishment, and that's pretty cool. Most of our distributors, it's kind of a slang term, but they have what's called hot pick areas. A hot pick area is if you have a very, very popular moving item and you want to put that item in a place in the warehouse that makes a lot of sense, it's easy to get to, it's close to ship to. Well, we can do a couple of things. We can just put basically a threshold and say, hey, I always want 100 of these units in this bin, and as soon as we fall below 100, go ahead and trigger a move stock, and that way it keeps everything nice and organized and neat. And then we also have what we call dynamic, where it's looking at all of your orders out there, and we'll take a look and say, whoa, there's been a spike in sales orders for these specific items. You may want to replenish this bin over here just to keep everything moving really smoothly while everyone's at work on their shift. We have space utilizations tools. We can handle return to vendors. And our customer service and inquiry tools are truly bar none. There's so many ways that you can slice and dice information and much more. So as mentioned before, we can go in at any given day and look and see, okay, how did my warehouse do as a whole? How many picks, how many packs, how many ships, how many cycle counts? We can detail and look at something for the originating transaction. So if something came in from a transfer order, we can drill down on that straight through our productivity inquiry. We can generate reports and say, okay, who's the fastest in our warehouse? How many people work today? Why is this person able to get more accomplished than the other person? We can look for training opportunities with our own personnel. We can do labor and productivity management, so you can say, okay, what is the threshold? What can I do in a day in this specific plant? So if you're planning to open a new plant or you're planning on adding a shift, you can actually look at what your workers are doing in a day. And you can also use information for troubleshooting or tracking information after the fact. The 7 big ROI or return on investment points for DC Warehouse Automation, the first one really is labor efficiency. And it's very common when I go and visit prospects and review their operations. A lot of times people think, hey, I'm looking at potentially, taking people out of their jobs. Well, it's really, really not true, because most of the warehouse personnel and plant personnel that we talk to, they are doing so many manual processes that they welcome this type of technology. And it's huge now, as we know, to keep and maintain good personnel. So why not make those people more efficient? So labor efficiency and helping good quality employees do more in a shorter amount of time and more accurately as they're walking around is excellent. Picking accuracy is huge. Shipping accuracy and savings and overall efficiency is huge as well. And the real-time inventory visibility across your company, of course, it needs to be coupled with good processes. But if you're running MRP or DRP, you really need an accurate basis, and implementing a scanning solution like the DC Warehouse is definitely going to give you a much more real-time visibility and accurate picture of what you have in stock, in your plant, in your warehouses, etc. The labor savings is huge because you don't have to do all these manual processes and shut everything down for a physical count. And definitely the accountability is another ROI point. All right, so I am going to turn this over to Julie.
Okay, great. Thank you. My name is Julie Call. I am the Director of Professional Services and Development. Today we're going to be going through and talking about each of the different pieces of DC Warehouse. As Kirsten mentioned, we won't be able to go into every single little feature that we have, but I do want to give you a good overview of the sales order, pick, pack, ship, the purchase order side of things, inventory, manufacturing, and then we'll kind of end it with some of our reports and inquiries. Before we get started, you should be seeing the Sage 500 and DC Warehouse screen. As you can see, DC Warehouse looks and feels just like another module within Sage. It's broken up into different areas: maintenance for your setup. We have activities for our client-based activities, reports, and then finally inquiries. So again, looks and feels just like another module within Sage. We also have another piece where we'll be going through with some of the different transactions. I actually have a simulation of the handheld device so that you'll be able to see exactly what the users would be doing out in the warehouse. So we'll be touching on that as well. Before we get started with that, a couple pieces I do want to point out. In DC Warehouse, a real big piece of it is security. Everything is controlled. So think of the handheld devices. We have something called Setup RF Options. So for those RF devices, or the handheld devices, you not only control exactly which of the pieces the users can get into, such as they are able to pick, or they're able to do PO receiving or cycle counts, but you also control exactly how those screens will work for those users. So let's say, as an example, PO receiving. Maybe some of the users, I don't want them to be able to post, so I may uncheck the post options. Maybe some users, I'm going to allow them to receive extra PO quantity, or I'm going to force them to scan a UPC. Maybe I want blind receiving turned on. So you can enable or disable options based upon groups of users or individual users. And that same concept follows throughout each of the different modules. So whether it's inventory, PO, sales order picking and shipping, or the manufacturing, that auditing and also the actual security portion of it will follow throughout each of the different areas on the handheld device. Same concept when we go into our package manager. With the package manager screen, that's actually where the user is going to go and not only potentially pack their shipment if they hadn't already done it at the RF time of picking, but it will also be where they can go ahead and process those shipments. And Kirsten had talked about the different carriers that we're integrated with, the UPS, FedEx, DHL, U.S. Postal, Pure Later, and so on. So just wanted to point that this screen is also going to be configurable and customizable for you. Not only will it be a graphical colored screen, but you'll also be able to set up things such as, do you want scales integration? Do you need touchscreen integration for signatures? Do you want to go ahead and set up your own custom ship forms? We've got everything from packing lists to ship labels to bill of lading, commercial invoices, pick box labels, etc. So there's many, many different just base forms that we have loaded into the system. It will also be able to, you'll be able to sort the screen based upon your preferences. Maybe some users want to see this sorted by customers. Some users want to see it sorted by ship method or date. So you do have the ability to pick and choose what you want to see there. One last thing before we start on the transactions is I do want to point out that DC Warehouse has a customer option. And the only reason I want to point this out is that everything is set up all in the same database. You do not reset up customers. You do not reset up inventory items, vendors, etc. The only reason that we have our own customer options within DC Warehouse is because we have added so many different features onto the sales order pick, pack, ship side, and we did not want to touch the actual Sage screens. So we had to add, for all the additional features that we wanted to add, we added an add-on to the customer screen, which would be this customer options. So basically, if I bring up a customer that's already set up in Sage, I am able to go in and do such things as item restrictions. We have item restrictions not only at a customer level, but you can do international restrictions, state-based restrictions. So there's many different ways that you can do restrictions in the system. We handle everything from determining if you're going to be utilizing ASNs, if you want to support blind shipping for certain customers, if you want to do what we call ship alert notifications from the carriers where, let's say, UPS or FedEx can automatically send out emails as soon as you ship the actual product out. They can take it from there, send an email out to the customer letting them know the tracking number, the ship date, etc. So that can automatically inform your customers of when you are shipping product. And then we also have other things on our detail tab, everything from if you want to mark something as residential, blind shipping, if you request a signature. And then we have forms not only at the time of shipping, but if you wanted to do any of those forms ahead of time as you're picking. Let's say that you wanted to get a packing list as soon as the pick was complete. Maybe you wanted to print out some ASN labels and place those on boxes as you're actually picking. So all of these different forms are available to you. We even allow you to go in and set up things such as freight upcharges, freight surcharges, setting up FOB rules. FOB rules would be things like on the sales order entry, you can set up everything from if the order is over a certain dollar amount or if the order is over a certain weight. You can go ahead and say, well, based upon that rule, maybe I'm going to go ahead and give them free freight. Maybe I can change a discount percentage. Many different options can be set up there. Another one would be, in this case, I may have a back order rule set up. So on the first shipment, I may go ahead and charge freight, but any back orders after that, I may go ahead and give free freight. So there's multiple different things that can be set up in there. I just wanted to point that out through our customer options. Now what I'm going to do is start going through the different areas, and like I said, we won't show everything in each of the areas, but I do want to give you a good overview of what is out there. So when we're talking about sales order, pick, pack, ship, I'm going to start off in DC Warehouse and go to my activities and go into SO entry. We do have our own SO entry, but keep in mind that if you have a sales order screen in Sage that is highly customized, you can still utilize that. The only thing that you will not see is our additional fields on the screen, but we do have other utilities and tools to be able to have you update those additional features that DC Warehouse supports. So keep in mind that you still could use the Sage SO entry screen, or you can go ahead and utilize ours with the fields right on the screen. So I'm going to start an order. And from a training standpoint, you will notice that the order entry screen has the exact same look and feel initially as the Sage 500 screen. So I'm just going to go ahead and pick up 2 items. And once I have these items in, this is where you'll start to notice a few differences. So on our sales order entry screen, if I go over to line defaults, let's say this is normally UPS ground. Now if I right-click, I could also go in here and shop for rates. So let's say that I wanted to shop for rates and determine if UPS ground is the best option. So let's say that I'm going to go ahead and choose these 3 carriers. It fills in my base options, and I can go ahead and click Get Rates. And what it's going to do is it's going to go out and talk with all these individual carriers and actually come back and tell me, based upon those and where it's shipping to, who has the best rate, so I can see who has the best rate, and who has the fastest delivery. And then I can make my decision based upon the information that is provided to me. If I did anything with freight up charges, I'd also be able to see those as well included in there, just to give me a true, accurate picture of what my freight cost is going to be. So that's one of the features that we have at Sales Order Entry. Some other ones that we do have available is over here on the header and the DC Warehouse Options tab. This is where I can mark things specific to an order. So if I had certain options set up at a customer level, they will automatically come into my order entry screen. But let's say, for example, maybe this order for this customer is going to be specifically residential this time. Or maybe my customer is not normally ship complete, but I need to mark this order as ship complete. I can simply come in here and mark the option, and that will go ahead and notate that that specific order is ship complete or residential or whatever option you mark. You can also set FOB rules. If they weren't set at the customer, they are able to be set right at the order level. It will show me if any freight upcharges will go ahead and be uploaded into this order. And then we also have a spot to go ahead and input things such as your customer's UPS account, their FedEx account, any one of those integrated carriers. We can go ahead and set up the account to have it billed to them if they want to go ahead and utilize their account for the shipping costs. Or if for some reason you do need to enter it automatically right at the order entry level, you do have the capability to come in here, specifically just check the option, and then input your account number at this time. So that is another piece that is available. Same concept with the LTL side. If for some reason you need to go ahead and use a specific LTL account, you can input things such as the name, address, account number, etc. And that can be shown on the bill of lading and any other forms that you may need. And then finally, on our last tab here, this is where you can set up things such as who do you want that email, that quantum view or that ship alert notification? Who do you want the email to go to? Do you have any specific label box or QC requirements? We have some pretty standard little check boxes here. And then all these additional formats for comments. So if you want something to show up under a label comment, a ship comment, QC comments, we have additional comment fields that are available to you to enter information in. So those are some of the main features of the sales order entry. One other feature that I do want to point out to you, and this is more from a customer service standpoint or just anyone trying to find information on an order. Let's say that I bring up an older order that's already been processed. From here, I'm going to go ahead and right-click on this specific line, and in there I can go ahead and drill into what I call my packages inquiry. And within the packages inquiry, I can see exact shipment information, how many packages there were, how it was shipped out, if there was any freight cost, tracking numbers, and then additional information such as who the actual person was that shipped it and when they shipped it. So, and in addition to this information, I also have other drill down capability, such as what items are in each package. So let's say, for example, if you lost one package and received the other one and you want to know what was in there, you can see the exact item. It would also show lot or serials if necessary, and the quantities. In addition, you could also track your package. That would go out just like if you had gone to a UPS.com, FedEx.com, and input your tracking number. This would automatically give you all the information related to your package. If you have any sort of signature associated with the specific shipment or packages, that can be shown as well. If you needed to reprint any of the forms that were printed at the time of shipping, carrier labels, packing lists, ASN labels, BOL, all of those can be reprinted at any given time in the future, even after it has been posted and committed. So just all of this is available to you. This is available not only at the sales order entry level, but this also can be run as a standalone inquiry called our packages inquiry. So we have the sales order entered within the system now. Now that that sales order is entered, I'm going to go to the next step, which would be to create the pick list. So in here, again, we follow a whole different picking methodology than Sage. So we do have our own create pick list screen, but you will see when you initially go into the screen that the initial look and feel is the same. So you first go into your select orders, and you would go ahead and choose your filters. The main difference on this tab would be that there are additional filters added other than what is found in Sage. So things such as ship to countries, customer class, FOB codes, any of the user-defined sales order entry custom fields. Those are all available to you, as well as a few others. And then we also have DC Warehouse options, and this is where it really gets into what sets us apart from Sage. So if you're looking to process just cross-stock orders, if you're looking for just certain bin locations, if you're looking for just certain zones to send your picks to, or a range of zones, you can do that. If you want to look for just complete sales orders, or if you want to look for just sales orders with back order quantity, if you want to pick according to FIFO methodology, if you want to go ahead and allocate differently, if you want to allocate by scheduled shipment date, we have all of these different features in here. We also support something called ready to ship, where product may already be boxed and you want to go ahead and do just a simplified version of picking where you're just placing the label right as you're pulling the box off the shelf and it's ready to go ahead and go out the door. If you want to go paperless, we support both paper picks or paperless picks. So if you want to assign the pick list to a certain user, to a certain group, you can do that. And then finally, just some other options are sales order limits. Maybe you have those one-line type orders that you want to send out all at one time. So I may go ahead and choose like that. Or maybe I'm looking for orders that have more than 50 lines. So you can simply put in a selection criteria such as that. So in here, many different options. For today's example, I'm going to go ahead and just put in my one order that we had entered. So I'll bring that up. It goes ahead and shows me the order, the lines, and then I proceed through. At this point, I have my pick list number. And if needed, if you do want to print out the form, you actually do have waive, order, or we also do have a label box QC requirements format as well. So there's 3 different formats to choose from. So let's say that I go ahead and just printed out my pick list. Again, you could go paperless if you wanted to go that route, and that would be ready to go. Before we leave the screen, one other feature that I do want to point out, and this is available not only in picking but in a few other, whether it's utilities, whether it's in our EDI export, we have something called an auto run feature. So basically what this auto run feature would do for picking is when I was in select orders, I actually can set up different settings based upon if I'm looking for LTL type orders, based if I'm looking for UPS orders, whatever you set your different filter settings to be. So in here with this auto run, I could simply come in and say, you know, I want to go ahead and look for anything that fits my back order priority criteria, anything that fits my FedEx criteria, and anything that fits my UPS new orders. Do I want to print them or just have them go paperless? how often should it look? Let's say every 30 minutes between this time and this time of the day on these days of the week. And it will go ahead and look for any orders that match that criteria and automatically pull them into pick lists and create those for you. So you wouldn't have to have someone just manually sitting there creating pick lists all day. It could do it for you. That is another option that is available to you within DC Warehouse. So we've got an order. We created a pick list. Now we're going to go ahead and pick it. And basically this would go out to the warehouse. The user would log in with their user and password. And as Kirsten mentioned, you know, when we go through these screens, they aren't the prettiest, they aren't the most graphical, but they were never meant to be. They're meant for speed. They're meant to validate the data. They're meant to make it as simple as possible and as goof-proof as possible for the user. So when I come in here, I'm going to go into my directed picking, and there's multiple different ways of picking. You have fast picking if you're doing more of an order-based picking. You've got wave picking if you're wanting to go ahead and summarize and grab all of the same item that you may need for different orders and then separate them out at the time of shipping. We have a combination of both, which would be our fast pick level. And then on top of that, you have everything from being able to pick to box, pick to pallet, pick to tote. Multiple different options are available to you in picking. So for today, since we have just one order, I'm going to go into fast picking. At this point, the user, and just to point out, I am able to pick both sales orders and transfer orders from this one screen. My pick option is set to default to sales order, but I could simply go up there and change that to transfer order if needed. But at this point, I could simply scan the pick list, or if I hit enter, it would have given me the auto-assign pick list if I was doing a paperless type method. So let's say that I had gone ahead and scanned my pick list. It's going to direct me as to the first line to go pick. I see my item, I can see the quantity, and then I see the bin that it's directing me to. It shows me I've picked 0 so far. So at this point, the user goes to the bin, sees the bin that they need to pick, and they would commonly at that point then go ahead and scan the bin to confirm it. You can also turn on options such as require the user to scan UPC, which in my case I have turned on. So I'm going to say, in my case, I want the user to go ahead and scan the item as well to confirm that they are picking the correct item. So let's say I scanned that, confirm the quantity, and at this point I am picking it to box, so I'm just going to go ahead and have a box assigned. Again, I don't have to have that option turned on. Those are where all those different RF options come into play as to what do you want, how do you want that screen to function. I go to the next item. Again, it tells me what bin to go grab this out of. So again, let's say that I had scanned that bin. I'm going to scan the item to confirm that I am pulling the correct item. And I'll just put that in the same box. It recognizes that that specific pick is done. I've fulfilled both of those items, and the shipment's ready to be created. Again, I have it just turned on to prompt to the user, but you could have that done automatically as well. You could also print out forms if you wanted to get them at this point, or you could wait till Package Manager. So again, multiple different RF options that you can turn on or off. So we'll say no, we're not going to get it right now. And then the user would go on and do the next specific pick list. So at this point, I'm going to go over here to my Warehouse Package Manager screen. And in here, I could bring this up by sales order, by pick list, by shipment, however I want to search. Just go ahead and open that up. It shows me the specific shipment that was just created for our order and our pick list. I can see the items that are within there. And since we were already picking to box, I can already see my box and any details related to it. You don't have to pick to box from the handheld device, though. I could have also simply come in here and done a quick package or multi-package. We also have drag and drop functionality, so I could have simply created boxes down in this bottom section, dragged items to it, and away we go. So you can do either the boxing from the handheld or from within this screen. A couple things to note in here. This will bring up all defaults based upon the setups that you do in the system. This is simply a small parcel one, but you could simply come in. If I wanted scale integration, I could go ahead and place the box on a scale, have that integrated, and it could basically press the button and it updates the weight within here. It shows me box information. All of this can be updated as long as I have security privileges to do so. If I need to change anything regarding the carrier, maybe I needed to update a description of goods, or maybe I wanted to get a return label this time and hadn't already marked it. I can go ahead and mark any of these options. We also have forms that can be printed out within here. So, for example, things like a packing list. There's multiple different packing list formats. One at the shipment level, a package level, a pallet level. All of those are available to you. This one is a UPS ground, but if for some reason, let's say you were doing a large order, more of a freight type order, we do have a bill of lading that can be printed out, and we utilize the VIX standard format. So this is the VIX standard broken out by individual packages and pallets, so you'd be able to see that. And then finally, if you're ready and you don't have any other forms that you want to print, there's other forms that could be printed, but I could simply come here, hit ship. It recognizes that this is UPS ground, is talking with UPS ground, transmitted all the data to them, and returned our label and tracking charges. So I can see the label that would have printed out at this point. It also came back, turned it from yellow to blue to notate that it is closed, returned my tracking number, and returned my freight up charges, or my freight charges. So all of that has been updated back into the package. You're not re-entering this, all of this data into a shipping system, then having to re-enter it back into Sage. It is automatic and fully integrated. So definitely we support small parcel shipments. We support the large freight shipments as well. We do have direct integrations with UPS Freight, FedEx Freight. Also for other freight shipments, let's say that I picked up another order. This one is more of a larger order that was going SIA. But for these types of shipments, we also do have the ability to palletize. We have a truckload manager where you can go ahead and actually put one shipment or multiple shipments within a truck so that you can print out one bill of lading for them. We do also have rate shopping through our Banyan integration. So you could simply come in here and be able to do quotes and booking with your specific carriers. So as you could see, I was going and had quoted, and it came back with 3 different carriers, and then I went ahead and finally booked with SIA on here, and it returns the pro number. So multiple options are available to you in the actual package manager. One other feature I do want to point out is that after you go through and you process your shipments, one final step for those of you that do ASNs, we also do have integrations with 4 different EDI providers. So we do have the ability to do EDI export of all of this information. So just wanted to point that out. Now that we've seen a little bit about the sales order, pick, pack, ship, I am going to go on to the other side of things with our purchase order receipts. So in here, first of all, with purchase order receiving, you still go through and you create your PO through Sage. So I went ahead and just simply, I'll just bring it up so you can see it. I went ahead and already entered a PO that we're going to receive. I've got 2 different items, 2 different quantities. So from here, once that purchase order is entered, I can simply go over to my handheld, go into the purchasing menu, go to PO receiving. So just like we had seen on the picking side where it supported both sales orders and transfer orders, the actual same concept applies on the purchasing side. So we support both receiving of purchase orders and receiving of transfer orders in here as well. So let's say that I'm going to go ahead and receive my PO. So I can go ahead and determine if I want to print labels. What item do I want to receive? I can go ahead and scan it in. or go ahead and pick it up. If I had blind receiving turned on, I would not see this information. That would be hidden. So, but in this case, I don't have it turned on, so I'm able to see what quantity I'm supposed to be receiving in. We also do support matching and tolerance codes. So, for example, I'm supposed to receive 50. Let's say I accidentally entered 500. It will warn the user that matching failed. Would you like to re-enter quantity? So I can simply say yes, be returned to this specific field. If I had said no, and let's say it was a valid entry, what it would do is it would go ahead and save that specific item in that entry into a separate batch so that a supervisor then can review that and do any sort of overrides as needed. Basically, it will keep that one separate from everything else so that you can go ahead and post through the ones that are good versus the one that did have an override that's needed. So I'll go ahead and input the quantity. Let's say I wanted to have the user scan the item again just to confirm that it is the correct item. And where am I going to place this? So I'm going to place it into a receiving bin in my specific case. And then I'll move to the next item. So we'll go ahead and let's go ahead and print. In this specific case, it printed a label based upon my options. And as Kirsten mentioned earlier with our label maker program, there's different areas, one of them being the PO receiving. So if you want to go ahead and have labels printed out at the time of PO receiving and you want to customize those labels according to your needs, you can determine what you want barcoded, what you want text, what type of fields that you want to put on your label. Do you want any sort of pictures or logos? You basically get the control of how do you want these labels to look. And there's many different areas that you can create these labels: PO receiving, item labels, bin labels, RMA labels, etc. So there's multiple different areas that these can be printed. So I'll go ahead and receive the second item, confirm my quantity. Go ahead, let's say that I had scanned the item. Oh, actually, this one is the table 100. We already did the other one. And I'll go ahead, and again, it would print out the label as needed for your specific item. When I'm ready to, let's say that now I've received both of those items, at this point, as long as I do have the security permission, I can go ahead and post my PO or post my receipt. If I need the receipt registers, those can be printed. That is an RF option to go ahead and determine if you want the receipt registers to be printed or not. And that has been posted. So I was able to receive and post the PO receipts without having to go into Sage at all. I was able to do all of that right from here. So just wanted to point that out. Other areas that are available to you from the actual handheld device. So not only can you do PO receipts, transfer order receipts, but we also do support pallet or license plate receipts. Container receiving, we do support containers within DC Warehouse, transfers, and then also two-dimensional barcode receipts. So if you are receiving in anything that would have a 2D barcode and it needs to read all of the information within that barcode, we do support that as well. One other thing I had mentioned was container receipts. I won't go into great detail with this, but I do just want to point out that we do have our own Enter Container screen where you can go ahead and determine what would be on your container. It could be multiple purchase orders, multiple lines from those purchase orders. You have the ability to change the quantity, and then we will be able to track that, what has actually, what the status is of it, the received, how many you've received so far, any sort of statuses, departure dates that you want to keep track of as well. So all of that is available to you within DC Warehouse. One other area, and I won't go into detail on this, but just wanted to point it out, is that we do also support PO vendor returns within the system as well. So that is just another feature that is supported on the PO receiving side. Now that we've received our PO, in my specific case, I had sent that to a receiving bin, and let's say that I have a separate person that is going to then take that out of the receiving bin and put it away. So I'm going to jump over here to inventory, and at this point, I would do what we call a stock movement. Sage calls it a bin transfer. The reason that we don't call it bin transfer is because we already had our own bin transfer. And bin transfer to us means I'm moving everything from a given bin to another bin. So if I had 10 different products within a bin and I'm moving them all, I could simply do what I call a bin transfer, move everything at one time. With stock movement, I'm simply coming in. Let's say that I had picked up one of the items that we had received. I could scan that. I could scan the receiving bin that we're taking it out of. And it shows the 50 that we had received in. Where do I want to put that? At this point, I could go ahead and simply scan where I'm going to put that, or we also have what we call directed put away. So at this point, if the user, let's say they don't know where to go, we do have multiple options to help them. So if they simply hit F2, that could show them the nearest loaded, or what we call location that is holding that specific item. The F6 would have been the nearest empty bin. So if you need, let's say you have a full pallet of product and you need to go ahead and put that away somewhere, need to know your nearest empty location, you can go ahead and hit F6. F7 and F8, destination bin and source bin, that would be kind of like, almost like your preferences, like where do you want to put this away at? Here's location 1 that I always wanted to go to, location 2, 3, 4, and so on. So destination bins would be like, what are my main or my hot areas? Source bins would be like, what is my back stock or my overstock areas? So simply, if I had come here and said, okay, give me all my hot areas, F7, this would say put it here first, put it here second, put it here third. So you can go ahead and see exactly where you need to put that away, and it's directing the user as to where to go. So I can simply confirm that, input the quantity, and that is moved within the system. So again, direct integration, it automatically pulled the data out and sent the data back to Sage, and everything is updated. There's other types of inventory transactions as well. So inventory adjustments, inventory issues. You could simply come in, scan your item, go ahead and say what bin you need to adjust. So again, I could scan that bin. Shows me what I have. Let's say I've got 910. I can go ahead and change this to a different reason code if needed. Again, you can go ahead and say whatever, as long as they have the option to change the reason code, or if you want that defaulted. Do I want them to be able to post the batch? Again, more RF options that you can control whether or not they can do that. But I'm able to go in and do inventory adjustments and have them posted, again, without having to go into Sage. You're able to do that right from the handheld. Other features available, let's say if you needed to do an RMA. So let me go ahead and bring up an RMA. I can see which item I'm supposed to be receiving back. I'll go ahead and choose that it's going to go into QA hold. How many can I possibly be receiving in? Let's say we received 1. And again, this is one of those areas where I can go ahead and print out labels as they're received back, and you can format them according to your needs. So you can change this however you need it to look, but that is now into the QA area and can then be further analyzed to see if it then needs to go back into stock or if it needs to go ahead and be issued out of the system. Other areas within the inventory side, let's talk about cycle count. There's multiple different ways that you can do cycle count. The first method for cycle count would be simply if you had come into your batch within Sage for process physical inventory. Let's say I come here. Let's say I created a batch. Let's say I selected my count items, and you have the same filters, so whether it's by bin, zone, ranking codes, whatever you may use, you can come in here and actually utilize any of the necessary filters. Let's say that I'm going to input, just a specific bin in our case. I can show the selection. Let's say I'm going to count all, proceed, freeze those count items. And at this point, that is now updated to the handheld. So I could come in here, go into my IM count, and then go through and start counting. Now from this screen, once we have the items loaded in based upon the actual count batch that was set up, there's two different methods of counting. So let's say for this first item, I'm just going to do standard mode. Again, I could also hide or show that I'm going to do blind count so that the user wouldn't see that. But let's say that I had counted 1405. Now in standard mode, if I go ahead and I pick up the exact same item in the exact same bin that was already counted the first time, then I'll go ahead, when I enter this again, I'll go ahead and let me bring that up one more time. Actually, that same item, I'll see that we originally counted 1405. If I enter it again, it overwrites the entry. So you can see that now it is 1410. So you basically scan the item, scan the bin, confirm the quantity. If you redo that same item, same bin, and you change the quantity, it will overwrite the prior entry. Now, if I change it to what we call our bin sweep or accumulate mode, with this mode, I can simply scan the bin, scan the item. Even if I had 1410 there, this would be used in cases where I'm going up to the bin and I'm just scanning boxes or I'm scanning eaches and I want them to keep adding them up for me. So let's say that I had added one more, scanned one more. If I bring up that same item, that same bin, instead of overriding it with 1, notice it went from being 1410 to 1411. So we have both a standard mode and also an accumulate mode within our standard cycle counting. One other feature that I do want to point out is that simply if I come over here, again to show you in real time, if I go into enter counts, I could simply see the 1411 is already updated within the Sage physical inventory screen. So that is already updated. One other feature, if you wanted to do counts and you didn't want to have to create the batch through Sage, we also do have capability to be able to create batches on the fly directly from the handheld device. So simply by using function keys, I could create a cycle count batch. I'd be able to post a cycle count batch. So there's multiple different ways that you can use cycle counting within the system. One other feature for inventory that I do want to really point out is no matter what screen you're in, whether it's picking, receiving, any of the inventory transactions, manufacturing, if you hit escape while you're in there, and if you want to go to your item stock status to be able to, let's say you needed to look something up. So I need to look up this item and see exactly where it's at. So I can see my quantity on hand. I want to see how much I have in each of the bins. I could simply hit enter, and it will show me, here's all the bins that this item is stored in, and here's your quantity in each of those. For lot and serial tracked items, it does go a little bit further and breaks it out by lots and serials as well. But that is a pretty useful tool to be able to see that on any screen that you're in. Again, that was just by hitting the escape function, I'm able to go into the item stock status. Some other features that are available to you on the inventory side, if you needed to do just one-step transfers, that's available. If you want to assemble or disassemble kits, if you want to do bin replenishment, we can support that in 3 different methods. Min-max, sales order demand, and pick list demand. Intermediate bin also can be used, but that is just more or less you want to keep track of exactly it moving from the shelf to a cart, pulling multiple items at one time, and then from the cart to the shelf it's going to. So basically, if you're doing multiple items with the intermediate bin at one given time. But all those different methods of bin replenishment are supported. We also have the ability to come in here, and like I showed you, we can do cycle counting, but also if you needed to print item labels, bin labels, look at stock status from its own screen, all of those options are available to you. So now we've seen inventory. I'm going to go over and show a little bit about manufacturing. In manufacturing, We do support both backflushing as well as material issues. So in here, for example, if you wanted, some of your work orders to do strictly material issues, you can do that. If you wanted some to do backflushing, if you wanted some to do a combination of both, maybe you have just some, nuts, bolts, those types of things that you want backflushed on a work order, but you have some higher cost type items that you actually do want to do material issues and record them directly to the work order, you can actually do a combination. So in here, I'm going to go ahead and create a work order. We're going to make 2124. I'm going to pick up a routing. I'm going to bring this to the screen. Let's say that we're going to make 5 of these, and I'm going to create the work order. So I'm going to update it as printed. That is a trigger to let it know to go out to the handheld. Make this just a little bit smaller. Basically, I've got 2 different products here. There's going to be 2 materials on my work order. Just to show you that both of these do work, I'm going to do a material issue for the first one, and I'm going to go ahead and do a backflush for the second one. So on here, I'm now going to go over to my handheld device, go into the manufacturing section, go into transactions, and for that first step, we said we were going to do a material issue. So I'm going to scan my employee badge, go ahead and let's say I scanned the work order. Which step? I can see the item that I need. I'm going to go ahead and then I need 5 of those. I'm going to confirm 5. Let's say that I went ahead and I took them out of that bin, and I can go ahead and mark that as complete. That material issue will be completed in the system, and it's updated to the work order. Now let's say that we had a second item that needed to be backflushed. Well, with backflushing, we support where you can either backflush it from where it's currently sitting in the warehouse, or we do also have something called Work Center Bin functionality. With Work Center Bin functionality, basically that is going to not just allow you to backflush from anywhere that the stock may be in the warehouse. So it's going to tell you you need to go pull your stock needed for certain work orders or certain work centers, how many you're going to need, and it tells you to actually move them up to a bin that will be at that work center. So it's only backflushing from that area. So that way it's not, just randomly taking it from some bin within the warehouse and then a user may go out and pull it from a different bin. So this way you actually go to the stock, move it to your work center, it's backflushed from your work center, and that is then updated to the work order. To do that, if let's say I was using Work Center Bin functionality, the user would be given notifications to let them know what they need to move. You could do it by work order, what you need to move by work center, so all the work orders within a work center, or by intermediate bin. Again, it would allow you to do move multiple items at the same time, move them into a bin, and then you're unloading them from that, or let's say not a bin, but a cart, unload them from that cart to the bin, the work center bin, as the final location for it before it gets backflushed. So I already have mine moved in the system. So I'm going to go straight to labor menu, and let's say that we're going to produce our finished good. There's 2 different ways you can do this. One is just a standard labor entry, or we do also support start job, stop job functionality that is also available within the system. So let's say that I picked up my employee, what work center I'm working in, which work order. So let's say I chose that. Is it complete? It's going to backflush any remaining items. Yes. I'm producing 5. Where am I going to place this? And then do I need any labels? So again, for manufacturing, if you want to produce a label, you do have the ability to do so. And again, you can make that in any format that you need. Produce your label, and you would move on to the next work order. Basically, if I come over here and look at my work order maintenance, to show you how everything is updated, I'll bring up my work order, look at the step detail. We could see that it recorded the material issue that we did. It backflashed the second inventory item on there, and it also produced the finished good for me. So everything was updated right into the work order from doing those transactions on the handheld. Some other features that are available to you from the manufacturing side. So again, you could do start job, stop job as well. If you wanted to go ahead and do more of production entry, we do have what we call labor part number, which would be the production entry. We do also have the ability to do labor returns, which would be like your progress entry returns. So not only, let's say that someone accidentally entered in, wrong number, or you just need to reverse what you produced. Not only will it reverse what you produced, but it can also reverse any of the backflushed inventory. So that's another process that can be handled. If you have configurable work orders where something may change on the fly and you need to update, let's say, a color, if you want to edit and update the quantity from being 6 to 10 or vice versa. We do also, again, security-driven, but we do also have something called work order maintenance, where you could simply come in, pick up the work order that needs to change, what step needs to change, then you could determine, do you want to go ahead and update a step? Do you want to delete a step? Do you need to add a step? So there's multiple different options that you can determine on there and just determine, do you want to delete it? Do you need to go ahead and edit it? Or do you need to add a step on there? So you can do all of those different options for your work order maintenance. So now that we've seen a little bit about each section, sales order, we did the pick, pack, ship, the purchase order, we did the receiving, inventory, we saw that. The work orders, we went through and processed a work order in the system. I'm going to show a little bit about the reports and inquiries. So in here, there's many different reports, whether you're wanting to look at our productivity, looking at receiving put-away discrepancies, looking at space utilization, all of those are available to you. Some of our top inquiries, the packages, we had seen that when we were in sales order entry, but just to point out again, as we had done earlier, you have the capability to go ahead and see this outside of any screen as well, so as a standalone. So let's say, for example, if I wanted to come in and say, show me everything that I have shipped for today, I can go ahead, and if there have been multiple shipments, I would see them all listed right here. And again, you could see tracking numbers, who shipped it, how they shipped it, if there was any freight charges, and again, right-click functionality to get into any additional details, print out any additional forms, etc. So you'd be able to see all of that information. Some of the other ones that are pretty useful are productivity. This is more or less just a full-blown audit log of everything that every user is doing. So, for example, if you want to see what went on a certain day, if you want to see how a certain user is doing, you can go ahead and look and see, okay, this date, this time, here's the user, here's the warehouse, here's the exact activity they did, and here's exactly what happened. So received PO, line 1, this item, to this specific bin, this quantity. Picked this sales order, this item, from this bin, this quantity. And it goes through and gives details about every single type of transaction. It also gives you a summary, so you can see exactly how many you're doing in a day, in a week, in a month. If you're trying to troubleshoot and figure out what happened to a given bin, you can use this for that as well. So you can specify certain users, certain activity types. Maybe I want to look and see, okay, what happened just within this specific bin today. So you can see, okay, I had 2 picks from there. I also did a material issue. So again, it could also be used for troubleshooting, but it is a really good audit log to tell you exactly what those users are doing out in the warehouse with the handhelds. Another one that takes it a little step further, and you can utilize this for incentives, is what we call our performance inquiry. And with the performance inquiry, basically this one is going to break out by group or by user exactly who is doing the most out in the warehouse. So for example, if you want to see who's doing the most picks by order, who's doing the most wave picks, who's picking the most items, who is going through and packing the most, who is receiving, doing the transfers, processing the returns. So it goes through every single type of transaction within the handheld and shows you exactly who's doing the most in each of those categories. And then even one step further than that, we do have something called a performance matrix. And this one gives you a breakdown. So I'm just going to go ahead and put in a specific range. And in here, this breaks it out as to users' daily activity. Actually, I want this to be a different year. There we go. Okay, so it shows the breakout by users on these specific dates or for that specific date range. Shows me exactly how many items they picked, how much their picking time was, what their pick hours comes out to be, how many orders they can pick per hour, and how many items they can pick per hour. It also goes in and shows me things such as idle time. So if their handheld is just sitting there, you know, maybe they're doing great work for 2 hours, but the remaining 6 hours, you know, they're really slacking off or they're not getting a lot done. This kind of gives you an idea of what is happening as far as how long their handheld is sitting there idle. And it also goes in and shows breakouts if they're just sitting on the main screen as idle, or if when they had it go idle on a specific screen, what are some of those details as to what happened. So let's say that I wanted to see the details. I could say, okay, well, they had a break, they emptied the trash, they had 2 different meetings, and they did warehouse cleaning. So you could see exactly what they were saying that they were doing during that time. We also do have the capability to graph this. So that can take this and put it right on an Excel sheet. And if you needed to do anything as far as reporting on Excel, that could be graphed on there. There's many other inquiries that are available to you. Things such as labor tracking breakdown gives the same type of a concept, but for the labor side of things for manufacturers. There's also things such as work order move material inquiries, so you can see exactly, you know, if you want to see what is going on with WIP and see exactly what you've moved to work orders, you know, if there's still anything left to pull, you can go ahead and see that. If you wanted to see things such as pick list status and see details about picks, we have that as well. But now that you've seen a little bit of each section, we'll go ahead and stop it there, and we'll stop the recording and then open it up for questions.